If you've ever dreamed of soaring over the Canadian Rockies without breaking a sweat, today's episode is for you. We're diving into Banff's best gondolas and chairlifts, whether you want jaw-dropping views, a fun family outing, or a shortcut to epic hiking trails. I'll help you pick the best ride for your trip. Welcome to the Banff Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Celine, a local Canmore resident living the mountain life all year long. When I'm not hiking to a new viewpoint, hitting the local mountain bike trails, or skating on frozen lakes in the winter, I'm helping travelers like you plan unforgettable trips to Banff National Park. As co-founder of Banff Travel Planning and Travel Banff Canada, and a fellow traveler who spent years exploring the world with my husband and our two kids, I know what it takes to plan a trip that's smooth, stress-free, and full of those wow moments. Today we're talking all about gondolas and chairlifts, because if you're coming to Banff and want those bucket list views without a big climb, you're going to love these options. First off, gondolas aren't just for skiers around here. In Banff, they're one of the easiest ways to get to those stunning above the tree line views, and they work for literally everyone. Whether you're traveling with little kids, grandparents, or you just want to save some energy for another hike later, riding a gondola is like stepping into a mountain postcard, and you didn't have to do the work to get there. As locals, we're lucky enough to see the mountains all year long, but that doesn't stop us from enjoying the gondolas too. We typically hit each of them at least once a year, if not more. We have our favorites at different times of the year, which I'll share as we go through each one. So if you didn't know, there's actually 4 different gondolas or chairlifts around Banff National Park. Each of them is a little bit different, so we'll go through each one of them. The Banff Gondola at Sulphur Mountain is the most popular and well-known one, and for good reason. The important thing to know about the Banff Gondola is it's an enclosed gondola. The ride itself is about 8 minutes long, and at the top you can walk the Sulphur Mountain boardwalks all the way to the historic Cosmic Ray Station. There's a rooftop deck, there's restaurants, you've probably heard of the Sky Bistro, and an interpretive center. Now, the Banff Gondola operates all year long. If you want that classic Banff wow view looking over the Bow Valley, the Banff town site, and endless mountains, it's really incredible. Now, you are going to want to book those tickets in advance, especially for the peak summer days. They will sell out. Now, if you've followed us along, you know that it's no secret that our family likes to hike. Often when we travel, we've opted to hike up instead of taking a gondola, which you actually can do for the Banff Gondola as well. Usually Dan and I will hike up Sulphur Mountain a couple of times a year. But when it comes to the Banff Gondola, one of our favorite times to visit is in December. We love to go up and get pictures with Santa, which we've been doing for years now. Not this past winter, but the one before that, we took the kids up there for the usual mountaintop festivities at Christmas. But that year, we also had tickets to the Christmas Carol. So we opted to hike down from the gondola because we had some extra time in between the time we had at the top of the gondola and the start of the play. I'll be honest, at first my kids were not so pleased to hear that we were going to hike down instead of taking the gondola. At this time, the entire trail and forest was snow-covered, felt like you were in a snow globe, and both of my kids enjoyed running down the entire trail, playing in the snow. Now, the funny part is, after having dealt with that argument with them and seeing how much they enjoyed it, we suggested again this past Christmas that we hike down from the gondola, and they were both so excited about it, so I guess we have a new gondola tradition for Christmas. The second on our list of gondolas around Banff National Park is the Lake Louise gondola. So this one is located at the Lake Louise ski resort just outside of the Lake Louise village. And again, this one is totally different. The Lake Louise summer gondola is an open chairlift or an enclosed gondola, so you have your choice. Now, this one for us is hoping to catch a view of a grizzly bear. The gondola and chairlift goes right above a wildlife corridor, so while you don't have an option to hike up instead of taking the gondola, you do have the potential of spotting grizzly bears. So this one is approximately 14 minutes long. It's got some stunning views back over Lake Louise. There's a small wildlife interpretive center. The Whitehorn Bistro up there has some incredible views. And there's also a couple of other restaurants down at the base. Now, the Lake Louise Summer Sightseeing Gondola typically opens in early June once the ski season is done. They do a winter sightseeing gondola, but really there's not anything to do at the top unless you're skiing. There's also some hikes you can do up at the top, but they are outside of the electric fence, so you need to make sure that you're prepared to hike there with your bear spray, and, bigger groups are always better. Now, it's not as fancy at the top as the Banff gondola, but the scenery is still jaw-dropping. As I mentioned, you're also enclosed in an electric fence for protection up at the top. If you want to hike, you need to leave that protected area. Our family goes up the Lake Louise gondola, I'd say at least once a summer. Now, we always opt for the chairlift. We do find that is more fun rather than being in the enclosed gondola. And while we know and we put on our blog that there's always the possibility of seeing a grizzly bear going up the chairlift, we have yet to be lucky enough to see one. But every year we try again. Now, while we haven't seen a grizzly bear, we did get to see a lynx. And that was probably a little bit even more exciting for us to get to see that lynx up there. In the summertime, if you go up there, you can enjoy some wildflowers along the hikes outside of the protected area. If you happen to be visiting in late September, there's a couple of great easy larch hikes from the top. Now, the best one was closed this past year, so hopefully we'll see it open again soon. And just another little tip, if you haven't figured out your shuttles to Moraine Lake and Lake Louise yet, the Lake Louise Ski Resort also does a gondola and shuttle combo option. I'll leave that link in the show notes, but if you want to do the Lake Louise gondola and you know you want to do it, then it's worth looking into that shuttle combo. Next up on our list is the Sunshine Gondola. If you want a little bit more off the beaten path feel, you can head to Sunshine Village. While most people I talk to don't know about this one, obviously locals know about it, but people visiting here typically know about the Banff Gondola in the town of Banff. Now, this one is definitely my favorite, and I sometimes wonder if I should stop sharing about it. So here's the cool part about this one. You take the Sunshine Gondola up to the ski village. Now, this is the longest gondola ride at about 20 to 25 minutes. And then from there, you'll ride the Standish chairlift even higher. At the top of the Standish chairlift, you'll reach the Standish viewpoint, which is an incredible viewpoint. And if you're lucky enough to be here midsummer, you're also going to find a alpine paradise of wildflowers. In the winter, you can do guided snowshoeing at the top of the Sunshine Gondola, which is a fun experience as well. In the summer, typically the Mad Trapper's Grill and the Chimney Corner are open at Sunshine Village for food, or you can grab a coffee at Java Lift. Now, you need to be comfortable riding both the gondola and the chairlift for this one, although you do have the option of hiking without taking the chairlift. This is easily one of the most stunning places for easy hiking in the Alpine without having to do all the hard work, which is why it's one of my favorites. The views from the Standish viewpoint are insane. From there, you can do an easy hike down past Rock Isle Lake and even all the way back down to the gondola. There are other options for hiking there as well, depending on how much time you have, and I'll put my blog post on that in the show notes. Now, unfortunately, this one doesn't typically open until very late June. So if you're coming in July, August, or September, typically until the third week of September, that's when you can catch this one. While we often ski at Sunshine in the winter, this really is one of our favorite summer places. We make sure to visit at least once a summer, but it usually ends up being more. Last year, we came up to see the wildflowers, and then we went up again on their last day. The last day typically ends up being close to when the larches are starting to turn yellow, so it's a really great time to visit. This past September, we came up on final day, and my son decided that he should wear shorts, despite being told several times it had snowed the night before. Rather than argue, I decided to just pack some pants for him when he got cold. Side note, he never did. But I sure got some looks from the others around, and really all I could do was shrug and comment, "Mountain kids, what are you going to do?" In all seriousness, though, it's going to be several degrees colder at the top of any of the gondolas, so it's worth packing an extra layer, even in the summertime. You can thank me later for that one. And last but not least is the Mount Norquay chairlift. So Mount Norquay offers a chairlift ride in the summer as well. It's a 2-person open chairlift. It's a short ride, around 10 minutes, but the view over the Banff town site is stunning, and the Cliff House Bistro at the top is a wonderful restaurant with incredible views. It's usually cheaper and obviously less busy than the Banff gondola, so if you are short on time or short on money and still want an incredible view, this might be the one for you. It's also where you would join the Via Ferrata climbing tour. So if you're looking for one of those super adventurous activities around Banff, that one is for you. And I'll include a link to that in the show notes. Well, that's a pretty quick summary of the gondolas around Banff. Each one has a little bit something different to offer, and I'll include my full blog post on all 4 of them so you can catch a few more little details. Just a few more tips before you decide which one you want to do or which ones you want to do is always bring an extra layer. As I said, even in July, it can be chilly up at the top. You want to book your tickets online early for those peak summer months for the Banff gondolas. Typically, the other ones you can do just as a walk-up. You always want to bring water bottle and snacks, especially for Lake Louise or Sunshine if you plan on doing any hiking. If you're going to do some hiking, bear spray is a must. If you're scared of heights, stick to the enclosed gondolas and maybe stay off the chairlifts. I will say though, if you are at all intimidated about having to get on the chairlift, just know that they do such a good job at making sure that it's stopped so you can sit down before it takes off again. So it's really not as complicated as it looks when you're on skis. All right, now it's time for our listener question of the week. And the question this week is it better to stay in Banff or Canmore? This is one of the most common questions I get, and honestly, the answer is both are great, but it really depends what you're looking for. Staying in the town of Banff puts you right in the heart of it all. Close to all the iconic spots like the Banff Gondola, Lake Minnewanka, Bow Falls, you'll be able to walk to all the restaurants and the trails and the attractions. So it's super convenient, especially if you're not planning to drive much or you don't have a rental car. But it's also going to be more expensive and more crowded, especially in peak season. The town of Canmore is just 20 minutes down the road. Typically, it's going to be a little cheaper and a little less busy. You may get a little bit more of a local vibe there. You're going to find some great restaurants, scenic walking trails. It's a little bit quieter, as I said, but you do need to drive that extra 20 minutes every day that you want to go back into the park or take Rome Transit. You also need to keep in mind that for the hiking trails around Canmore, like Grassy Lakes or Howling Peak, you do need the Kananaskis Conservation Pass to be able to park there. And obviously everywhere in Kananaskis, but because those trails are so close to the town of Canmore, people don't always recognize that you need it for there as well. So which one should you pick? If convenience is your top priority, you really want to be right in the middle of it all, go with Banff. If a slightly more relaxed feel and cheaper accommodations is what you're looking for, then definitely take a look at Canmore. I don't typically recommend splitting your stay between the two because they are so close together and it's just a waste of your time to be checking in and out of hotels when you can make that short drive in between them. Where I might consider splitting a stay is if you want to spend a night or two near Lake Louise, to drive up to the Icefields Parkway or to go into Yoho National Park. And then obviously, if you're going to stay in Jasper, I would recommend spending a couple nights there as well. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Banff Travel Podcast. If you found it helpful, I'd love if you hit subscribe and left a quick review. It really helps other travelers find the show. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on a future episode, head to banfftravelplanning.com/podcast and send it in. You can find more planning tips, tools, and free resources on both of my sites, Travel Banff Canada and banfftravelplanning.com. Until next time, happy trip planning, and I'll see you out on the trails or the gondolas.